Diane.
Go ahead.
Welcome you all out to the City of Mobile's Administrative Services Committee meeting in respect to the 22-acre site at the Civic Center and a possible master plan or items that should be included in the master plan that should come to the council. Present or members of the committee, also other members of the council are present. Missing today is Ben Reynolds and Councilman Jones. Also present is the council attorney. In the gallery is members of the administrative staff, members from the DDD, also a member from the Corps of Engineers representative, and the I see the CVB and other members of the city also present in the audience today. Before we get started, at the top of my agenda, I've invited somebody to give you guys a quick commercial or presentation of an idea of how I kind of think that this should go. David, if you would, I want everybody to hear what this could look like for the city of Mobile, if you would, please.
Good afternoon. Is this on? Live?
Yeah, they're ready.
Good?
Yes, you're good.
So I'm the new commercial guy. So we are the tourism folks for the city with Visit Mobile, and kind of what we do is marketing, branding, and promotions. That's what we love to do. And listening to all of your great ideas, sitting back there in a lot of these pre-city council, city council meetings, we have a really pretty cake at that 22-acre site. And we know that there's, some ingredients in it that even make it a prettier cake for our future. And we're really talking about sustainability for the city, as you know, and tourism sustainability, which is sustainability for Mobile. I believe we have the most valuable 22-acre and civic center site along the entire Gulf Coast. It just so happens to be in between two major international companies that make aircraft and warships for the world, right by one of the fastest growing ports in North America and in the heart of the vibrant downtown urban city and entertainment district. Rich in Mardi Gras history, diversity, arts, and culture, adjacent to an exit that 130,000 cars go by daily. And finally, our new soon-to-be international downtown airport. You want to partner with us? This narrative, I know, is eventually changing to kind of a sales and opportunity narrative. We have really hot retail space here, and I'm telling you, you can drive 200 miles along Interstate 10. There's not one better 22-acre site to help develop a city, kind of a bookend to another entertainment district that goes all the way over to probably St. Louis Street. I know we have Elizabeth and Carol that could talk a lot more about that here. It's super exciting to visit Mobile, to listen to what you're talking about, and some of these ingredients that make this pretty cake that I think really solidify our vibrant downtown and really add to already the rich diversity that we already have, and be really respectful, as y'all are saying, to our surrounding communities around this site. There is a way to do it. We believe in what you're doing, and we think this tips the scale in tourism and really puts us in the map in a lot of different ways. So, Councilman Carroll, thank you for the commercial opportunity, and I'm happy to add any injection, but that's the commercial.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. But after hearing the commercial, then I hope we all realize how important doing this right the first time means. We don't get a second opportunity to redo this when it's done. So making sure that there is a plan in place. 10 years ago, we didn't even have Church Street East completely filled with properties. So many changes over time constitute a need for a plan, and for a plan to be complete. For a plan to be complete. There's been several plans that have considered one building or two buildings, but never all three. Then even the populist plan is for the three buildings in themselves, but not the rear. So, our job that I'm asking the council is, let's find a way to make all of this work. And there are a lot of things to be considered in trying to find a way to make all of this work. $200 million. How are we gonna spend that with rising inflation? And are we gonna go to a bond market or borrow money with the inflation rate the way it is? $25 million, which the Corps of Engineers building is requiring if they build their site, which right now we're on the hook for if the core building goes forward. And I think there's been some confusion in this because the public doesn't know truly that that $25 million is the responsibility of the city of Mobile. Not the Corps, but the city. That is an obligation that we've made to the Corps. So, if we're gonna make this work, let's find a way to truly make it work with all the amenities within a master plan that need to be there to make sure that in going forward, that any other developer that wants to come partner with us has the ability to do it in a manner that it fits with the entire community. I gave each and every one of you the just spec proposal with other things that should be included. The floor is open to what you think, what you don't think, what you'd like to hear. Who's up first? Scott, would like you to hear right now.
Yeah, we do have a plan in front of us now from the Planning Commission that lays out zoning and codes for the Civic Center site. And a lot of work has gone into that. It is based off of the master plan. There were some amendments to that went through the Planning Commission. I think it's a solid document that lays out the zoning for that is flexible, that gives options. If somebody wanted to come in, populace wanted to complete their plan, it's got the capability to use this as a basis for that. If another entity wanted to come in, the same thing is true. So, you know, I think what I would like to see is take what's been developed, and then if you want to add or take away from that, then let's take it from that perspective. But I don't want to just throw away the work that's already been done to get to this point. And the document that's in front of us at this point, I think needs consideration from this entity. And I would recommend approval with any amendments on what's in front of us at this point.
Are you talking about the populist document?
I'm talking about this document
You
from
mean
the Planning Commission.
The one that we just got this morning?
Yes.
I can't even talk about it yet, I haven't even digested
Well,
it.
I've seen it from the Planning Commission perspective.
So I haven't even had a chance to fully digest it yet, so I can't even speak to it. So it's unfair to even discuss that document at this
Well,
stage.
it goes hand in hand with the conversation that you're having right now.
I'm aware, and I'm not saying that it doesn't, I'm just saying that it was presented this morning, and there's no way to discuss it when we've been busy all morning without the opportunity to even read the first paragraph. And I think for the other members of the council, I don't know who's seen it and who hasn't, but it's also unfair to them to try to discuss a document that we know nothing about until 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. So.
Then maybe we need to put off this whole meeting until we have done that and we can discuss both things in context. Because what you're discussing goes right hand in hand with what's in front of us right now. And I don't think that we need to talk about them as two separate entities. I think we need to talk about them as one entity that we adjust with the ideas and thoughts from the rest of this council.
Any other questions? Jim? No?
Yeah, part of me agrees with Scott about if we are here to discuss the planning commission's proposal and just having gotten it a little premature, but also because I know we want to talk about the master plan. And since we're discussing both, I think they should at least to some degree go hand in hand, but a couple of questions. With a master plan, and this is kind of general, you know, for all the experts who are out there. Could a master plan, a new master plan, or a combination of all the plans that have been put together before, somebody bring it all together, could a master plan be worked out around or with the zoning that has been proposed from the planning commission? Maybe with a couple of minutes here and there, sort of thing. And we haven't really gotten into this, but I would suspect as part of a master plan, we would discuss amenities, housing, that sort of thing that would go on the site along with those buildings that are there now. And like William mentioned too, we haven't gotten into which of those buildings we really want to see stay there. And if that's the case, where do we come up with the funding to renovate them? So, yeah, I think that's all open for discussion. And I don't know if this is something that Jim, you want to delve into, or somebody else, if they're here to talk about master planning and that sort of thing.
Sure, I mean, there's kind of, you brought up maybe 3 different issues. The funding is a kind of, I think, a separate issue. It's obviously gonna be relevant because funding's obviously critical to moving anything forward.
If we decide to go forward and do anything.
Right, but as it comes to the planning and zoning and the master plan, both the zoning and the master plan that Populous did, which was a combination of all the master plans that have been done before, has been adopted by the planning commission and is before the city council for a period that will now be voted on, I think, November 15th, I guess is a new date.
For public
That's a
hearing.
public hearing.
For the public hearing, sorry, for the public hearing. So, so those have already been adopted by the planning commission and they're before you for approval. The zoning is commensurate with the compilation of the different master plans over the many years, about 18 years of different plans and studies that have been done, that take all the attributes of those plans and put them in. There's a lot of, if you look at all those plans, there is a lot of common themes throughout all of them. Some of the comments that we didn't know the intersection of would be coming off of out of the tunnel down onto Claiborne Street until recently is not accurate because the plan from 2007, the graphic shows that exact interchange, shows Claiborne Street ending. So we've known since 2007 those type of things have been in place. And again, there are consistent themes. Those themes include housing, mixed use retail, either renovating or rebuilding the civic center and arena. All those attributes, a hotel on site, office space, and of course a parking deck to facilitate all of that, because without any kind of parking structure, you don't have the space to be able to do the work. So all those attributes were put into the adopted master plan, as well as the planning and zoning that was done, or the zoning that was done for the site.
But as far as any specifics, I mean, I know you've got the proposed zoning that the planning commission approved, and we have plans going back decades, but nothing has really been pulled together as this is the plan. Of course, the council has never voted on anything that's true because we could never get that far. But we have all these ideas and proposals put out there that we have, but whoever does a master plan, if it's spec or Populous or whomever, I think the question really is, can you take all of these ideas that have come along through all these other plans and whatever's on the table today, and put them in play with the proposed zoning that has been approved by the planning commission, possibly with some amendments, and make something work?
So I think maybe there needs to be a little more clarity on the definition of master planning. There's a lot of definitions of master planning. It can be very short, it can be very long. I've pulled up lots of examples of what a master plan is. What you're describing has been done time and time again. The city has paid consultants to meet with the public and hear from them multiple times over these last 18 years. The messages and themes that come back are all the same. So that's documented. That's not a question. We've done that multiple times. To include the most recent one by Populous, where they met with the public and the stakeholders that were interested in it. So that's been done, and a master plan really lays out what are gonna be the key elements and the things that the community wants in there. I think what you're describing is, what's the detailed design gonna look like? That doesn't happen until after you make some decisions on the overall concept and master plan, and then move forward on a specific design. But until we do that, there's not gonna be the detail level design, which comes later, once you decide that, hey, we're gonna move forward, we're gonna hire a design consultant to take that plan to a design.
So you're saying that we're basically ready to rock and roll with a general idea, general design, and then hire consultants later to come back and be specific with single family here, multifamily there, entertainment here, office building there, sort of thing?
I think that is, we generally know where that needs to be right now, based on all the plans that we have. What we don't know is the design, specific design for what that single family or multifamily housing is gonna look like, what exactly it's, size, shape, look of the retail, but we know generally where we want that, we know the items that we want in it. Now you have to hire a designer to actually take those concepts and plans to a detailed plan and design.
Jan, all those things are within a master plan. I mean, if they were not within a plan, then the DDD wouldn't have a form-based requirement in it. So you're blowing smoke and mirrors at us here. I mean, zoning is not a master plan. It's only a piece of it. In order to have a true master plan, you have to have it all. And let me go back to 2007. When you said that piece was there. I was there when we did the interstate and the buys and the A, B, D, and C options on the bridge. The plan that you're talking about was rejected. If you remember, and most of us will remember that the Volcker plan was rejected and the concept that you're talking about went away. So it's only just recently come back. So you're telling us things, trying to get us to believe in an option where those things change over time. So plus a master plan has a binding agreement on the site. Doing it your way, there's no binding agreement or plan. The council has to vote this in, and in order to vote it in, the council of Gina just simply asked you the same thing I stated in the beginning. Let's find a way to make it work that is inclusive of all the things that are needed in a master plan, not just the zoning portion of it.
So,
And when I asked for the details from Specker, what I thought was missing and what should be included, all those other things that Jeff wrote, those are the things that are missing within the plan that you presented to us. So those things should be there. Then let's just talk about the DDD for a minute. The DDD overrides everything out there. Everything that I've seen from y'all have created zoning numbers and codes I don't even recognize that don't exist within the DDD. So I mean, to those that understand this business and this life, what you presented to me has no bearing. So what we need is something that works with what we already have. That's simply what we're asking. Nobody wants to stop you. Nobody wants to hold you up. We just want something that works.
So if you have questions about the document that Councilman Jones brought up, which is the.
I just got it, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot, and I'm not trying to cut you off because I just got it today.
Yeah, just let me follow up. So I think what I'm hearing from Willie, and maybe also Jim from you too, if we kind of listen to each other maybe, why don't we just put on paper in a document y'all's ideas from the previous plans, just so that this is our plan. We're not gonna start over with charrettes and all that other business. We've done that for years, but you already know what the public wants, what they've been concerned about. How about just putting it on paper? This is the plan as we go forward, and any past ideas that came up, the current ideas that are there, answer the DDD issue. And that way we will have something that we can look at and approve, which would include what we're gonna do with these 3 buildings over there that we also need to discuss and make a decision on. But I think William just wants to see a master plan that we approve, and it's something we've already got. It just needs to be put in a document.
So just to take a step back to outline
what the site is highlighted as. It's in the downtown development district. When it was adopted back in 2014, it outlined the area as a special district with no zoning requirements within it. And I think that was anticipating that future development would come, which may be unique to that site, which the current zoning requirements as outlined by the downtown development district may not nicely fit within that 20-plus acre site. So the language in the downtown development district asks for a master plan. Just to remind, in the state of Alabama, master plans are not a mandate for development. It essentially serves as a guide for development. The next step within that process is to outline specific districts. So what you have in front of you lays out site configuration, frontage types, land uses. Because it's a form-based code, it's very prescriptive in terms of the types of things that are relegated within each of those districts. And so while it doesn't show you a rendering, so to speak, or a concept of what can be developed, it gives you the parameters by which a development will be evaluated on. So essentially, think of it as a rezoning like you would normally see, but it has those specific requirements in it. And so it goes before the Planning Commission. As was stated before, we did receive feedback. While it does not necessarily lay out the zoning districts as prescribed within the DDD, we relied and leaned on those districts as a basis for coming up with what we define as a mixed-use development. So there are some similarities. The variations you see are typically in height, typically in use, typically in site configuration, which has been a hotly discussed topic. So when a developer comes to town, quite frankly, they're not gonna rely on the master plan. They're gonna rely on the downtown development special district requirements as a way to determine how they move forward. So, from a planning perspective, both documents are important, but what's most important is having a district that has guidelines so that the developer knows how to move forward with their development. Without that, there's no proposal coming for you because the site is essentially blank at this point.
So that is part of the downtown development district, the Civic Center.
This is.
What is being presented to you is what was presented to the Planning Commission and they have adopted.
It is a new district or is part of the DDD?
These are districts within the DDD.
A district within the DDD.
Right.
Correct.
Which means that anything within the DDD, it falls to the ruling of the DDD and structure. So simply,
So anything we do over here then has to fall within the guidelines of the DDD, or can this be viewed and still under the umbrella? I know.
Looks like that here.
Yeah.
hang on, Elizabeth. If I remember right, and I think I've seen some emails on this, if it happens within that special site with the DDD, then the DDD is the ruling entity of that site there. So I don't remember all the rules because I just read this again last week. And I think Elizabeth's wanting to jump in here, but there was I can't remember all the details right now, it's just running because I'm trying to think of so much. I'm blank. Elizabeth, you're gonna answer this question?
No, I just wanted to address the comments about SD. The reason that DPZ did not code and declare those as special districts was because, and they specifically said this in there, that a master plan needed to be done. You can't code to what was available at the time. So to say that the new plan, which was available at the time, and every planner, I've been through so many of these plans, you know how old I am. And so every one of them always asks for all of the new plans so every plan builds on the other. So to say, we've studied it, but but they said there wasn't enough there to properly code the ones that were SD, because they were just big blobs of land, and there wasn't a plan for those. The coding that's been done is just not form-based code, it's really HUD within the code, which is not allowed. And so, you know, the only reason I suggested Jeff is because he's recently done a lot of studies here, and he knows the downtown really well, he's very fresh. And I did not mind asking him if he would be willing to, you know, move aside other projects and do this. There are not many planners that I think we can just do that with. So, that's the only reason, because I thought there was an element of speed, so that we don't, you know, hold up the SD Stonewater project. But still get what needs to be done to really take full advantage and full value of the site. But that's, they knew that the EDSA plan, what we call the new plan, was out there, that there'd been some minor look at it during that, but that was a huge study area. It went, you know, downtown was just a tiny piece of that big study area. So certainly a master plan was not done for that, just some concepts were done. There weren't deep conversations about the future and the development of the civic site during that. Certainly wasn't either during the new plan, because all we hired them to do, unlike what the Village of Spring Hill did in your district, which was a master plan, we hired TPC to just do code. They couldn't do code because they declared no master plan. So to rely on those two plans as previous master plans, I don't think they were intended to be that, they were concepts.
So basically, it's kind of going backwards.
Well, I think it's going forward, because I think.
Well, I mean, the way
think-
it was done though, you're saying was backwards, that you should have had a plan, then do the zoning, is that what you're saying?
Oh, of course, because
Yeah.
form-based codes are based on plans, they're not, it's unlike the other type of zoning where you just broadcast, here's a big broad area of zoning and let, you know, come what may. Form-based codes are just very different, and I think you have,
Yeah.
you know, a
Well,
lot of
given-
experience with that.
I think part of where I'm trying to go is, given where we are, and there's a timeline out there, even though maybe we did go a little backwards, is there a way for us to come back around and say, okay, we've got some zoning in place, now we need to get that more specified plan to go along with the zoning and make amendments with the zoning where they need to be in order to make it all work, rather than just starting over?
I don't think there is legally, within this code, but that's just not the way form-based coding works.
Jim responded with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, if you look at these plans, even the new plan for Mobile, there's probably 6 pages of comments, requirements, and drawings for the Civic Center site. Yes, it covers a lot of downtown, but there's like 6 pages just on the Civic Center in very small font. And 2 concepts and 2 plans. They're not gonna be any different than any other master plan that you're gonna have anyone else do, that show what those sites could look like. So I would argue that since 2007, which is one of the earlier looks at a master plan, any iteration after that continues to go back. And that document, which is a very good document, by the way, that one that the city contracted in 2006 and 7, done by EDSA, it's very comprehensive, it's very specific, and much of what's happened in the downtown since then has been based on that plan. And the requirements laid out for the Civic Center site are very specific. If you look at the copy that was provided to you, there's highlighted sections that talk about some of the specific attributes that they thought should be at that site. And those are the elements that are included in the master plan going forward, which then was used to help do the zoning. It wasn't done in reverse, it was done in the sequence by which it should have been done, and that the combination of all those plans and studies over the years was culminated in the most recent one adopted by the Planning Commission, and then zoning meant to meet that. Without the zoning, what you wind up with is what happened in 2018 and 19 when you put out an RFP, which, by the way, this 07 plan says you should do that. You put an RFP with a blank slate and you wind up with 20-story office buildings on the corner where the court building's proposed, overlooking one-story homes, because it's a blank slate. So we're trying to preclude developers from wasting their time and money, and they probably, I didn't include those costs in there, but they probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing those, I would guess, to do something that we had no intention of ever doing because we did not provide the guidance. And so I think it was not done in reverse. If you go back and read these, it's followed the process. We've just never gone to the step that we said, let's codify the zoning and let's adopt a master plan so that we can then proceed to the next step.
Actually, the EDSA plan was adopted by the city council.
Yeah, I was about to go there, but doing it your way right now, it lessens the rule, and it allows a developer to come in here and basically do what he wants to do and lessens the area. I haven't seen this thing yet, but our current way, our current footprint, it takes away, and the developer can come in here and do absolutely what he wants to do without adhering to the rules that other developers have had to adhere to downtown as of far. Now, I see you shaking your head, Scott, and you have an advantage because you've read this and I haven't. So I don't know, but I'm basing my statement right now on what I had in front of me up until 9 o'clock this morning when this was sprung on us. So right now, I'm working off of what I've been given today. So again, I mean, if we're gonna do this and get something that is binding that the city can work off of, then I still believe that we need a master plan that can work and work within all of it. Go ahead, Scott.
I don't know where to start. I'm a simple-minded guy. We've got 5 granddaughters and a grandson. We put together puzzles that are complex. We always start those puzzles by getting the edge built. This is the edge. And this lays out a foundational element for a developer to come in, and it tells them what your left and right limits are, what your height restrictions are, what your build restrictions are, based off of what Populous gave us, which most of us liked. And most of us said, that's a pretty good idea. I think this gives us, if we adopt the zoning and codes that's here, it gives us max flexibility to be able to take what we have and adjust and move that. If somebody comes in different than Populous and says, I want to add this, I want to take away this, they can still do that, but within the constraints of the zoning that we'll already have laid out, that gives them the capabilities to do that. We spent hours discussing this. We had multiple public hearings. And I think some of y'all even listened in on those public hearings or attended those public hearings. And public comment was taken. And matter of fact, the plan changed because of, we reduced the residential build from 5 stories down to 3 stories. We reduced curb cuts on Church Street to make sure that it was not conducive to heavy vehicle traffic coming down that street where we have residential homes. All of those things have been considered. But along with that is a reality that we do have a bill that is coming. I think that it's coming with the Corps of Engineers and the parking garage. And I think that this gives us the ability to take a phased approach and in line with this civic center code that we have as a special district unit. And we can develop within the boundaries that are here. And we have an opportunity to adjust that if we don't like some of the things that are in there, but it gives us a start point. And then we can adapt that master plan. I think what we have is a pretty darn good start. For what I've heard feedback from my constituents is what they want to see. And if we want to take and morph that a little bit based off of development, you know, when we get feedback from folks that may want to invest in this area in the future, we can take and change that as they have designs and concepts. So, you know, having multiple options and flexibility is a good thing, but still being able to meet certain constraints that we have in front of us is also a requirement, I think, that this meets. So, I think we're on a path that is taking us, now, I'm a little bit concerned when I hear what we're doing is illegal. The first time I've heard that, why did the planning commission adopt something if it's not done right?
Yeah, we can't, no idea why the planning commission would have done that. I'm not saying they did do
I
anything.
mean,
I mean, that's been before you since September the first, I
Right.
believe.
so I'm a little bit, I mean, can y'all, I don't understand where.
I'm not sure where the illegal came from, and to the comment of this is being sprung on everyone. Again, these were public meetings since September 1st, all this has been public record, it's all been readily available, it's all on the website, so it's all been available to the public and the council since those meetings.
All right, yes. Elizabeth, have y'all seen this stuff that they have up here?
Yes.
Y'all seen all
We
this?
commented on it, before the planning commission.
Yes.
Y'all
Our
have?
comments were taken.
Were y'all in agreement with any of this? Were y'all in agreement with it?
You done me?
Yeah,
No.
okay. Wanda, have y'all seen this?
Amendments to the
Yes.
proposed amendment?
Right. Y'all are the biggest stakeholders down here. Have y'all seen it? I mean, you, Elizabeth, a few more. Have y'all seen it?
Yeah.
Were y'all in agreement?
No.
Okay, so that's two of the three biggest stakeholders not in agreement with what we have.
How are they the biggest stakeholders?
Because she represents the Downtown Mobile Alliance, who was an instrumental part in the DDD. Wanda is a member of Daytona Square, who is closer to the next development. We're missing one representative from Church Street East, who I don't know if they've seen it or not either. They are instrumental, the biggest instrumental parts in this part of my district. And I have a very good pulse of the people that live in my district. So
This
it's
isn't a
important,
district
it's important that those voices are heard. And again, we're not stopping this, we're moving forward. We're gonna move forward, but we've got to do this right. We only get one chance at it. Now let's talk about for a minute the Corps of Engineers building. Will, I see you. What is this mirage, or how does it affect you guys moving forward on y'all's site right now? Are there new time constraints? Last time I talked to you guys, we could float for a couple of months or so.
Let me come a little closer.
Yeah, come on.
I've been listening intently. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. So our project, we advertised this project back in May of last year. And of course, FD Stormwater issued purported on with a water once we signed the lease. We were hoping and still hoping that we can break ground in January. And obviously every slippage pushes us further to the right with the project. And so it does have an impact. I listened to you all talk about the entire master plan, and because my mind says, is it impossible to carve out just this piece and moving forward so that our project can stay on schedule as best as we can. You know, I understand all your concerns, I'm listening to you. We deal with master plans before also, and our concepts, like Jim described master plans, so that they're kind of concept in nature. They get approved and then eventually build within those confines that we approve. So I don't want to compare federal process to the city process. I'm gonna leave that alone. But to answer your question, Ms. Carroll, every delay pushes us that much further out. And at some point, the question becomes with Stormwater, do we have a contract? Do we have a project or not? I mean, they made an offer over a year ago, and everything's going up. So they may even come back to us and want to recalculate and submit a new proposal, because we kept this thing open longer than we had anticipated.
I'm sure they have escalation in their price, though.
I'm sure, but not 2 years worth, I'm sure. I don't think we got that kind of
into the core now.
escalation.
You know I know the process like the back of my hand.
Yeah, but we don't allow you, I mean, you build, everybody build profit and escalation in. But of course, we didn't see this coming either. This protracted process we're in now with you guys, and so it is a bit problematic for us. So I'm hoping that at a minimum, you guys go through this, that we can at least carve off that piece. And then yes, the garage, of course, it is a part of what we need Now, the good thing about Stormwater, I think you guys already know this, is that they're paying for the building, they're gonna build the building at total cost. So there's no cost to the federal government and no cost to the city, which is a good thing for us, we're using other people's money. But the garage is a cost, I guess, the city has to deal with. But so if we can carve out that portion, that would certainly, keep our project on schedule.
That brings to mentioning ground leases and everything else to my mind, and what the ground lease looks like. If you guys already have an agreement with them for a building on city property, and you guys are moving forward with the design, wouldn't you guys already have a ground lease that they propose to you guys as what you're gonna lease the building from them with, as part of their cost?
The ground lease
No,
is,
I'm talking to him about the Core's lease too.
Oh, the court, so no, so our lease is, it's gonna not the ground lease, it's the lease for the facility, the building
Right.
itself. And, yeah, so in theory, you're exactly right, but we need the ground lease in place before we execute our lease. So we know that we tell them proceed, that they actually proceed with the construction.
Right, but I mean, there's a section in state code, I think it's section 9, that requires that the city just can't lease that property for $1. It has to be a fair marketable amount, and that should be based on whatever profit that your developer is making too. So we can't do that cheaply. So, but that's yet to come, because, you know, if we're gonna go forward with this, it has to be done quickly too, and only council can grant that. But that's for another discussion, another day. I think that this meeting is gonna run long because of, I don't know what's in that paper yet, and I just got it today. I need to see it before we move on and can make a solid decision, or at least I can. I asked Kendall, earlier today if there was an attempt to do a master plan, and I don't know if you got an answer back. Kendall, have you?
No, I haven't. Our guy was actually traveling, so I haven't. But certainly, you know, our partnership with the city's been for a long time, and so if it's the will of the council, we'll certainly reach out and see anything we can do to help from our side.
Right, and simply what I've done is I asked Kendall to ask his owners if there was a way for contract ownership, if they would actually provide the master plan for the site and the facility at their cost. So, and come up with another option to where the city would have less exposure and we'd have a partner in this. I know from their owner that he's spoken to the city in the past about an option like this, and this might be a better approach because we'd have a partner in this from the beginning. So it's something we can look at, it's something maybe we can hear before we come back here again. Mr. President, I'm gonna ask that we reconvene this after we've all had a chance to really look through this information. There's really nothing we can come to an agreement on until we all know what's in those pages. So, guys, thank you all for your 51 minutes of time. Let's reconvene this after we all know what's in these pages. Oh, Court, did you have any questions?
No, I didn't have any questions, I want to agree with my colleagues, I think that it was important being made some valid points. One of the things that I do want to state is that, a great proverb says, plans fail for a lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And so, it let me know that sometimes you can have even a good plan, but having everybody at the table and making not making that decision can fail. And I think we have a great opportunity to move the city of Mobile forward with having a great plan in place. I haven't had the opportunity to read the proposed amendments to the DDD of the UDC code or the existing zone ordinance. I haven't had the opportunity, but I'm excited about reading it and getting some information. But I just want to let everyone know we need to do something. We have a great opportunity. David made a great point. 22 acres. It's time to move the city forward. So we need to figure it out and let's do it together. Thank you.
One last thing. Guys, we're giving a whole lot of hope and excitement to the community about redevelopment of 2 or 3 of the buildings at the Civic Center. Our whole push with populace to see what we can and should do, spending $200,000 to get us there, you know, and then turn around and do nothing will not make sense. Will not make sense. So when we do this, it has to be done right. We should not be exciting the public on what we're gonna do, just to get one building built if that's the intent. If we're gonna do this, then let's do it right. And let's find a way to get this financial end of it too understood as we move down the road. I appreciate everybody. Gene, I'm sorry.
I know at one of our meetings, we have had these discussions, which is a pretty conference meeting. And piggybacking really on what you just said, and I've said this too, one thing we can agree on is that those buildings over there need to be renovated in some way, shape, or form, 2 of them or 3 of them. That's one thing we can agree on, and I think that's important. Whether the rest of it we agree on, that's up in the air right now, and that may need to stay up in the air until we can come to an agreement with zoning and planning and all that. But in the meantime, why don't we do what we can do, which is renovate those buildings, and then we build on what happened to the rest of the site, if that's even doable. But that's something to throw out and to consider, because otherwise, we're gonna be sitting here for months with the same arguments, the same questions, and going nowhere. I can quote my colleague Joel Days, if you would like. But why don't we see what we can agree on and start moving forward and let the rest fall into place?
One last request. 6, 7, 8, or 9 of us need to figure out how we're gonna handle this core thing. And Scott, Mr. President, Scott, you're on this committee, right?
Which,
This administrative services? Mr. President, request a meeting where we can get enough of the stakeholders in the room with the administration, and let's figure out how we can fit the cores building into this plan so that we're not hindering the development as we figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of the site also. If you could get that set up.
It probably just you go ahead and call a meeting within the next 2 weeks, right before the public hearing.
All right, let's do that, and I'm going to invite some members from the public, Willie, you, Elizabeth, David, Scott, need you to be there, Wanda, and maybe a few others, and let's sit down with this administration and figure out how we're gonna get it out the door. And first get the core going, and then find a way to get the rest of this site done in an amicable way so that everybody's happy and we can move forward.
with that, there's a thought, if we're gonna meet in a couple of weeks, what I would also request is that we review this amendment that's in front of us and bring back any feedback so we can discuss that at the same time. Because this is an important tool.
I agree. So, we have anything on the 25th?
Yeah, we have I have my, title.
That's the last 1 hour. What?
18th.
The 18th, we just come back in town.
We'll be just getting back.
We have meeting that Wednesday.
Can we do it after hours? Are y'all available after hours?
Were you talking to them?
Talking to you and everybody else that's part of this to figure, I'm talking to everybody that's part of this because it can't be done in a vacuum. Somebody from the administration that's close to this has to be there to know everything that you're trying to do. The stakeholders from the community have to be there along with the council so that we can find some type of agreement on how to move the core forward as we find some type of way forward on the rest of this. So I'm trying to prevent the core from being held up while we figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of the stuff.
Preference would be obviously during the business hours like we're doing right now, because the same people are in the room and we're gonna hear. So that's a preference, number one, to answer your question. Number two, I think that everything we've got laid out doesn't slow down the core by any means. I think we could still move forward. We've already subdivided that parcel. We have, so I'm not sure I'm not sure the intent of the meeting, but I think the path at least we have laid out still accomplishes that, I think.
Yeah, just can you want to meet that Wednesday when we get back from Tampa? Is that what you want to do?
Let's do
Have
that.
a Corey's meeting,
At
let's just
Corey's.
do that. And be prepared to figure out
So
how to.
Well,
So the 19th, it's the 18th will be
that'll be the 19th.
That's open.
The 19th. All right.
There needs to be some conversations between us all before then, so we'll have some type of solid footing on where we're going, especially with the core. I don't know where we're going with the rest of this site, you know, and I don't know what, right now, I'm really concerned about the $200 million. I mean, that keeps looming over my head. I want to do this, but I'm afraid of going to the citizens of the city right now with rising interest rates and borrowing money and $200 million at this. It concerns me a little bit. The $25 million I could probably swallow, you know, but the rest is, that's a big number right now with the state of the economy. The whole reason for my question last week to Bob was because of this. You know, did he think it was a time when we should go out and extend ourselves for a large expenditure like this, especially with other interests that are coming forward where we're gonna have capital outlays to maintain portions of the city?
I think you're making a bad assumption though, when you say that the city's gotta bear the 200 million piece of that. I think when we get this flushed out and we advertise this, we will find a partner on the private side that will team up with us and move forward. I mean, you see that in every major city. You look at all the great things that are going on in the city and the growth of the city, port, airport, et cetera. If they know that we're gonna put a top quality product here, then I think we've got enough all-stars sitting, David Clark and others, that we're gonna be able to get some partners in here. Yeah, I'm holding you, David, I'm gonna pin you down on that, brother. I got faith in you. But I believe that wholeheartedly. We've got a great product in the city. But we've got to get something out there that we can sell to the private industry that wants to team up with us.
Guys, everybody, I appreciate your time. Everybody, thank you for coming. Everybody, have a great day.